Jackie, good morning.
Good morning, Pierre. Good morning, everybody on
Good
YouTube
morning.
and all over the world.
How's everyone doing today?
I suppose the people are just as confused as I am when it comes to internationally.
Hey, what?
We've got an international audience, but I got it totally wrong because somebody said to me that daylight savings is around the corner and it's actually already happened for them.
Yeah,
I don't know that it changed differently in different states and things. It's
yes,
only the US that can do something like this because our time is always the same.
right. And for those of you who don't know, Jackie is now in a different time zone than me here in the northeast of the U.S. So I just need to take a moment and really express how dissatisfied I am with the concept of daylight savings in and of itself. All of it, I hate. All of it. And I know hate's a strong word. That's how I feel about us changing time. Like, why are we changing time?
Exactly.
We don't work. We don't work in factories anymore. We don't need to like save daylight. You know what I mean? I'm not even sure it helped them in
No,
either. But I'll leave that alone. I'll leave that alone because this could end up being just an hour of me on one long rant and
I'm so
no.
glad that somebody from the US is actually feeling the same way that than the rest of us in the world when it
Completely.
comes to this. And it's actually not the only thing, Beer. There is other things as well, like the metric system and driving on the wrong side of the road. And I don't think we need to open that bag.
Okay. So metric system is better. Let's just talk about that for a second. I know it's a little contrarian. Uh, the metric system is just better. It works in factors of 10. You can divide and you can multiply, and it all like scales up and down seamlessly. And you go to the imperial system and you go to inches and feet,
It's like,
and the fractions of inches make no sense. And even on tape measures, they don't make sense. Like, who wants to look at 16 different divisions? We'll
yeah.
stop here.
But at
Today,
least digital marketing is the same across the world. At least we can
thankfully,
all agree on that one.
thankfully, that's actually a great tangent. Today, we're going to really dig into uh, landing pages, how to create a great landing page, all the different pieces that come together. And I'm actually going to go and take you guys into a real deep dive on all of the different questions that you might have. We're going to look at some marketing. We're going to look at some psychology. We're going to look at some eye tracking studies by Nielsen, which, if you don't know who Nielsen is the premier analytics company worldwide across time. So, like, when people talk about the ratings, it's actually the Nielsen ratings.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
that's the company that puts out the ratings. It always has. They're the resource when it comes to consumer behavior and research and things of that nature. So we're going to get into those studies. We're really going to break down why we build pages the way we do, why we design them the way they do, what's the psychology behind it, so that information you can take and apply to any business, any industry. I know we keep talking about the ADA principle. Any type of implementation where you bring in your marketing expertise, you're going to figure out how and why it works. And so this kind of opens up the whole thing, right? So we're not teaching you like, hey, add this image here, put that button there, and that's how you do it. We're talking about why you should be doing this.
Why?
Yeah. So if that sounds good to you, Jackie, we can dig in here.
Absolutely. I'm actually getting excited because, I think it's Simon Sinek. I don't know how you say it, Sinek, Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
that always says you need to find your why. And I think
Yeah.
it's the same thing with marketing, We
Yeah.
have to find that why. Exciting. Can't wait to see what you are going to show us here today. I didn't know about that guy.
So let me share my screen here. Sorry, my cat's gonna go a little crazy here because there are leaves. Excuse me. There are leaves everywhere falling outside, and if you've had a cat, you know that just the sheer sight of leaves falling is something they can't resist. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can't see that perfectly.
Let's dig in. First of all, this is the article we're going to start looking at first. So this is the Nelson Group. Let's scroll down, and you guys are welcome to look it up. Let's go to articles, scrolling, and attention, because that's the first question we're going to ask. Why am I creating these big headers, right? Why am I putting attractive pictures? Why don't I just have like all of my text all up front, right? Mm-hmm. Why am I dividing and cutting up my pages the way I am? The answer really lies here, okay? In this study, they analyzed over 130,000 eye fixations on a screen. All right, and this is so imagine your eye moving up and down and left and right. That's your XY coordinate. And so they tracked users and how they looked at the screen. All right, this was tracked over 120 participants that involved thousands of sites from a wide range of sectors and industries. All right, here they tell us that they focused their analysis on a broad range of user tasks that spanned a variety of pages and industries, including news, commerce, blog, FAQs, and encyclopedic pages. So all of these are to scan how users read, or look at a web page. All right. And all of these were studied on a 1020 by 768 monitor. So it's more of a landscape monitor. It makes sense, right? So all of this doesn't apply to a phone, is what we're saying. So let's scroll through. In the most recent study, users spent 57% of their page viewing time above the fold. All right, such an important metric. So think about this. Almost 60% of all the time spent on the page was spent above the fold. Okay. 74% of viewing time was spent in the first two screen folds. So we spent 57% of our time on the first fold, and then 74% on the first two screen folds. What does that tell us? That tells us that your landing page, what they see first, is the most important thing that you need to. Sorry, the most important thing you need to do is attract them and keep them on the page in that time. Okay, so 57% of all of the time spent is going to be spent looking at that page. What are they thinking about? What's the user thinking about? They're asking some questions. Is this the right landing page? Can this person fix my problem? They're assessing that in the first, I don't know, think 5 to 7 seconds. That's the time that they're gonna take, and then they're gonna leave. If the questions aren't answered, they're gonna go. All right. So, and I urge everyone who has analytics on your website, and if you don't have analytics on your website, install it immediately. Look at your bounce rate. Look at how many people land on your page and leave within the first 10 seconds. If that number is higher than, let's say, 50%, change your header. That header area, change it. Okay? These two pieces of information, I think, tell us a large part of the story. Okay? I'm going to keep these here so we can remember them over time. These findings are made from different from those reported. 80% of viewing time was made from the fixations above the fold. Okay. The pattern of sharp decrease in attention following the fold remains the same. So they're referencing another study, but this is the conclusion. Above, a sharp decrease in attention following the fold. Meaning, when I get to a website, let's go to builderall.com. This is the first screenful. Right here, this is the first screenful. All right. This is where 60% of my customers are going to stay. All right. 60% of my customers might leave here. All right. I'm going to scroll down to the second screenful here. This is where that 70% of my viewing time ends. All right. So I want you to go to your own websites and apply that, right? Scroll down to the second screenful and ask yourself, is this attractive enough? Do I tell the right story? Do my customers look in the right places? And we'll answer all of those questions today. Okay. So what I want us to do is like take this as a personal test. Okay. Go to your own web pages and figure out if you're working around these 3 topic points. Let's continue reading here. And don't worry, we're actually gonna dig in and we're gonna look at like actual creating the pages. Okay. But look at this graph. Percentage of viewing time, and this is screenfuls of content. So as we just did, okay, so it went 57% leave, or 57% of the viewing time is on the first fold. Then we have 17% on the second screenful, and look how sharp this drop is. Anything after the 4th or 5th, let's say the 5th screenful on, like, is this even valuable, right? Is this even valuable? So 26% of all the time spent is spent on the 3rd screenful and on. So like the combination of everything past your second screenful makes up 26% of the viewing time. Think about how little of that is in terms of the time spent on your page. Okay, most people.
And I guess, Pierre, the fact that there's a 4% at the end of it is that people tend to scroll quickly down to the footer, maybe to get a contact page or a contact number.
This has 11 plus, so I'm assuming this is like they're averaging out
all of them together.
All of them together, they're adding them. So 11 plus, 11 on is all 4%.
Separated by 4%. Oh my word, it's crazy.
So this really tells us that by the 3rd screenful, if you haven't made your point, you're done. All right. So you need to make your point within those first 2 screenfuls. Okay. I'm going to scroll through. And I want to look at this. This is so important. So then the question becomes, okay, Pierre, I got it. First screenful is so important. Like the most important is your first screenful of content. It's prime real estate. And I'm going to type here 57% of all. Hold on, excuse me. Let me shut off my notifications here. I'm going to remind everyone 57% of all user time spent happens here. Okay, and if you have any questions, guys, drop them in the comments. Today is going to be a little different of a session. So, you know, the more you engage, it lets us know that you are interested in this type of content. So, second screenful of content is important, but not nearly as much. Here we have 17%, right? If I'm not mistaken. Here we go. So by here, when I get to my second screenful of content, if I haven't really attracted the customer, if I really haven't gripped them, they're gone. That's what the study is telling me. You have really one screenful to make your point. And then if this passes the test, then you have 2 screenfuls of content. And then after that, you're done. If you haven't made your point by here, it's over. Game over. Okay? So here's what we want to do. We want to figure out how people look at these pages for us to know, okay, where am I going to have my headline? Where am I going to have my images? What am I going to place on the screen? Since this content, real estate, is so valuable, how do I use it? Right? Isn't that the normal next question? I don't know about you, Jackie. That would be a question I would ask. So let's do this. We'll draw a line with a box. And let's add a text here that says, how do I use this real estate since it's so valuable? Okay. And Jackie, please hop in with any questions. I don't want to just talk at people for
sure.
A session.
No problem.
Yeah. So let's look at the study and see what they say about reading patterns. Okay. So important. It says here, and the closer a piece of information is to the top of the page, the higher the chance it will be read, which we know is true, right? Many users engage in an F pattern. Do you know what the F pattern is?
Yep, I do.
Okay. So this is the F pattern of reading in a digital context. Okay, they have a video. I'm going to summarize the video. The video is basically saying users spend their time reading this way, reading this way, and then they scroll down to the second line. They don't view as much, right? And they do this across the whole page so that, like these sort of look like Fs. Okay? Let me make it simpler just for the sake of this explanation.
I've just had a question in my mind now coming up. We know that this applies to landing pages and things.
Mm-hmm.
What about blog posts?
Yeah.
I mean, I think by the time they get to a blog post, it's because they're really, really interested to read that. And that is why the pattern changes. Then it means they actually want to consume that content and they found it interesting. But I guess it's the same type of thing that you need to capture their attention in the first paragraph. Yeah. It's basically as if the first paragraph is the top of the fold.
Yeah, there is research about this. So the F pattern here, I think the key word here is that they engage in an F pattern when content is not well structured. Okay, when the content isn't well structured, which a blog is well structured, they engage in this F pattern. Why? Because your eye is trying to find information. Okay, that's what we do, and the direction of this F pattern is also important.
Yeah,
it goes left to right because we read left to right. Now the question is it always left to right? The answer is no. If you belong to a culture that writes right to left, Arabic, Hebrew, I'm not sure about Sanskrit, Farsi, they read right to left, and therefore, and this is what I find so interesting about this study, the F pattern is the same, but gets flipped. Your eye looks for information. All right. So that's what happens when we look at a page that isn't structured. So the direction of how you read is also really important. Also, this dictates where we place items. So let's dig down one level deeper. Okay, let's dig down one level deeper. You say it's an F pattern, that's fine. That's all great. Now, what I want people to recognize is that your eye jumps from the initial point of focus, which is here, over, scans quickly to the end of the page, and then travels in a diagonal back to the beginning, and then looks here. So it creates different points of value. All right. And that's why a lot of times you're going to see, now let's overlay this information to a landing page of sorts. Okay. Let's look at, do you want to give any random website example, or do you want to look at something specific? I want to look at this for free page, which is a high converting page at Builderall. Okay. And I want to actually, we'll do the study together. Let me take this screenshot and overlay it here. And we can break down this information. What I'm going to do, Jackie, is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to overlay it. Okay. Just to show people that this is like a real live case where we can actually use this. All right. It's not something that lives in like the land of theory. All right. So when a user lands on this page, they get the full screen full of content. They go here, 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 and here. So in other words, when I go to place my valuable pieces of information, I'm going to keep this in mind. Where do I have my header? Where do I have my images? Where am I trying to attract people, right? Because we need to remember the job at hand for this header is to attract and capture attention. Okay. So what I want people to do here is use this top panel to only attract and capture attention. Don't try to make the sale yet. Okay, don't try to make the sale yet, because if you try to make the sale yet, you haven't given enough information. You're going to scare people off. They're not going to. And I don't want to say scare people off like people are afraid to spend money, but I want to say scare people off because they're afraid to spend money with you because they don't trust you yet, right? They don't know this is valuable yet. So this is what we're going to do. We're gonna create a template here on the web page, and we're gonna create a template that's gonna replicate this F pattern to begin with. Okay. The study goes into immense detail about how people scroll and why people scroll. I urge everyone to read it. Okay, I urge everyone to like really come in here, watch all of these videos, look at all of the material. It is a beautiful, beautiful content for marketers anyway. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take these implementations and we're going to implement it. The only thing I'm going to also mention is beware of false floors. What is a false floor? A false floor, I'm going to type this here, is content that doesn't signal to me that this page is scrolling. Okay, so what does that mean? Meaning, I'm going to zoom in. If I'm a user and I land here, I want everyone to look at the bottom of this page. There's nothing telling me there's more content underneath. Okay, so what that signals to users is like, okay, I guess this is the page. All right, so they leave. All right, or they don't scroll. So we want to be careful when we design to make sure that the panel ends before that screen break happens. All right, so that you signal to the user there's more stuff down here. Some people do this very bluntly, and they put like an arrow at the bottom of the panel itself. I'm sure you guys have seen it, like a panel, like an arrow or something to tell people there's more stuff down here. Sometimes you want the text to like peek here at the bottom, right? So like, it's very clear here that there's another panel underneath. So I'm going to scroll. And this is my second screen full. It's very clear that there's more content underneath. I'm going to scroll again. It's very clear there's more content underneath. All right. And what am I doing? I start to implement these CTAs to be more obvious the more I scroll down, because we know that attention is fading. So as attention is fading, I want to make my calls to action clearer. I want to give people bigger, brighter signals. Do this now, do this now. All right. So that when people get here, they hit compare plans and they're off to the second step of the process. All right. So at every point, I want to give people this signal. All right. So let's draw this out. Okay. So we know this is going to be my homepage or my lander. I'm going to create a new website. I'm going to start from scratch. And as you guys, as we mentioned last time, we're going to work on these together, and we're actually going to put them out to as a template so that you guys can download them. If you have a Builderall account, you can get access to this for free. Okay, so everyone with a Builderall account gets access to this template, and you can go in and just implement it and replace the information. And we're actually going to make it so obvious. And I'm going to say things like 57% of all users leave or spend all of their time on your website before the fold. Let's make it matter to them. Okay. Cabin TV, appreciate that comment. I'm glad you liked it. Very glad. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to make the panel just a different color. All right. Just so we can very clearly see where the first fold is.
And then maybe we should add things like an example of a heading for the top of the page, an example of a call to action type of thing.
Yeah.
And I always like to make use of the weight loss industry because it's so in your face and so emotional.
Yeah.
And always talk about a problem like people want to lose weight while they sleep because they don't want to exercise, kind of thing. We can make a very, very clear heading.
Yeah.
As an example.
What I want to do is I don't want to offer an example. I want to offer like an instructional text.
Yes.
Like in this section, use, do this, right? So what I want to do is like something here. And I want people to...
What type of title? Yes.
Right.
Like problem solving, identifying titles.
Yes. Here's what I'm going to say. Do you know about the app? Let's make this just a little bit smaller, just because it's a little too big on the screen right now. Actually, maybe we'll do something like a lot more. Here, I'll do this. I'm going to say 57% of users will leave. All right. And then I'm going to say 57% of users use all their time on your website before the fold, make it count to them. And I'm going to actually include this as well. Excuse me, I'm clicking all over the place here. So then you ask, okay, where do I put my pictures, right? We looked at this pattern, and I want you guys to think of this like a grid. Put your pictures and your images somewhere here. All right, that's like a really basic way. Now, is this the only way to structure a page? Absolutely not. This is a good guideline if you don't know compositionally how to put together a header. Follow this structure. Okay, is this the only way to implement? Absolutely not. Obviously marketing is and design is a pretty subjective field, and you can, with the right composition, the right designer can make anything really work, right? But for us, we're trying to make our way through. We can follow this structure and feel confident that this is a good way to structure a page. Foxy Kiwi, yes, this is what above the fold means. So it comes from the old newspaper usage. People would fold the newspaper in half and would only be able to read what's on that front page above the fold, right? When they get handed the newspaper, or when the newspaper is stacked up on the side of the street, you can walk by and read it quickly. And then if it's attractive enough, you would stop and buy the newspaper. So that visual moved over online with the scrolling. So here I want to place my image on one of these points of focus, right? So I'm going to do this image. And you say, what if my image is on the back? That's fine. If your image is on the background, that's fine. Put your text on one of these different points of focus. All right. And so you can put something like this. Obviously, the sizing needs to be played with a little bit just so everything is nice and relative to everything else. But this is a good way. I'm going to use this vertical picture just because it's going to use the space a little nicer. Now, placing this image here, like we can already tell that this as a header looks fine. All right, it looks decent enough, right? And obviously, because we want to follow this F pattern overlay, we want to go left to right and then back to the beginning, and people scroll across. Here's where I'm going to put, somewhere in this neighborhood is where I'm going to put this button. Okay, so now we're starting to break down why pages look like they do, right? We're all very familiar with this this type of page, right? Or this basic layout where you have the big header and you have an image on the left and then you have the button on the bottom, right? This is actually why. This is like the research of why pages are built the way it is, the way they are. Does that make sense? And I love to get all like nerdy with this, so like let me know, you guys, if this is doing the wheels.
It makes absolutely sense.
So this is a good way to structure a page. All right. Cool. Notice what I did here. The length of the panel, I didn't make it so that it's this way. Right? You see how this way, it doesn't signal that bottom of the page that we talked about. Right? So important to beware of false floors. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this back up. I'm going to add some text on my next panel. And I'm going to say this: beware of false floors. Point up emoji. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know about you, Jackie, but I embrace this the emoji culture, and I'm so glad that people are more accepting of it.
I agree. It's just I don't know. There's just something about an emoji that speaks when
right?
you cannot speak.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think people have become lazy to read. I think that is why emojis is showing the expression of how people think and feel.
So here becomes the question, okay, now what am I going to do for this second panel? Now, if you notice, if you look at the screen here, I don't know about you guys, but this is compelling to me. Just looking at it, it's easy, it's comfortable for my eye to like find the information, right? 57% of users leave. Okay, what's that about? Right? And then I can read this here. I get the image and I can have a really relevant image. All right. We can throw in an exclamation mark. I don't know. We'll leave it without. I don't know about exclamation marks. What is it? Mark Twain said using exclamation marks is like laughing at your own jokes. And I've been guilty of laughing at my own jokes, but I'm gonna not use exclamation marks. Beware of false floors. It signals to me that there's more at the bottom, so I'm gonna scroll down. Now you say, okay, Pierre, what happens next? All right, let's look at the study. Let's look at the studies. What happens on the second fold? This F pattern is going to continue, but we know that attention fades. So let me change this, have this background color do exactly that. Do background color fading. And then here, what people have seen is that F pattern becomes smaller. Okay, so the area of attention decreases because people are trying to scroll through and figure out if it makes sense to them. So I'm going to put my information here and here and here and a little tighter into the page. Okay, again, reminder, this is not the only way. This is a good way. All right. So if you ask me, hey, Pierre, I did this, that, does this make sense? You're going to have to look at the page and assess, but this is a great way to do that assessment. So now, this is why a lot of times the big H1 titles are used up top, and here at the bottom, people use like H2. All right, because of this this idea, right? So I'm gonna say, what is it? 74% of users of total users leave after this screen full. All right, good morning. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. If you guys don't, for everyone who's just joining, we're breaking down the science behind the different landing pages and why we build pages the way we do. We looked at some research, we took some findings, and we are creating a page based on these findings. All right, this is going to give us a great foundation and a great blueprint that's based in psychology and research to build out the pages. So here we have 74% of users leave here, and then they scroll down. 70% of total users leave after this screen full. This tells my brain, as I'm building this page, this is so important. This is so valuable. Use it, right? So here's what we want to do. We want to give people something super valuable. So in the ADA principle, this would be where we would need to capture their interest. All right. So be sure to capture user interest.
Can we not add the ADA principle letters across the page on the panels to say this is the A for the where awareness happens? This is where, or will that not be possible?
It absolutely would be possible. Yes. Let me think of how to do that. Here, I'm gonna duplicate this, and I'm gonna say Ada principal stage 2 points attention.
Because that is going to help so many newbies to understand the principles and to put these things together.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. Here we go. Well, I think we'll make the whole thing even smaller. And maybe a different color, right?
That's perfect.
Okay, or just like this, yes. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate. Now, notice what we're trying to do. We're trying to capture people's attention. We're not trying to do anything other than getting people to land on this page and figure out that this page is relevant to me. This has to do with the problem that I'm looking to solve. Okay. So let me duplicate this. Here at this stage, oh, man down. All right, here we go. Okay, here at this stage, this is going to change from attention to interest. Good Lord. Looks like we have found a bug. There we go. Okay. That's weird. So this is super important. And then the purpose behind this panel changes. I'm no longer trying to get attention. I'm actually trying to make them more interested. Okay? So be sure to capture user interest and signal to users that you can solve the problem. All right? And I'm going to give you an example. This is something we like to use whenever possible. It's called the now you can. Now you can statements. All right, so this is what we're gonna. This is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna say utilize now you can statements in this panel. For example, let's say build websites, send emails, manage your appointments all in one place. All right, it's a compelling title, and what it does is it tells people what they can do, right? So the whole statement, or this principle, let's call it, is if you can add now you can, the words now you can before your headline, you wrote it correctly. All right, so now you can sleep comfortably all night. Now you can play with your grandkids again. Now you can start your business in 1 hour or less. Now you can, whatever. If it doesn't fit that now you can statement, don't include it. And don't write now you can. You don't have to write now you can. You can just write the other part. Okay, let's look at some websites. So again, here we said now you can build websites, send emails, grow your business all in one place. All right. Now you can start by getting your custom domain, right? This is a different foundation, but we're already past the second screenful. So it's a great way. So here again, now you can create stunning websites with no coding needed ever. Okay. Now you can create better content in minutes. Now you can get data from all of your marketing activity in a glance. All right. Cool. Capiche? All right. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments. I see we have some more people coming in, which is awesome. Let me know if this all makes sense to you. Okay. Now you can. Here, I'm going to write it in italic. Now you can build your business in one place. Right. So I'm going to have this be in bold. So you're only going to use this build your business in one place as on your screen, but the way you test, the way you check, is this a good title or is this a good statement to make, is by using something like now you can right before this headline. All right, cool. Does that make sense? And now for this register, here's where you give a direct CTA. Always give direct CTA. Always drive people to the next step. Your CTA is to the next step in the ADA principle. It's not to nowhere. You don't go from here to buy now. All right. Although you can sometimes, there are different studies, but I want you guys to focus on pushing people down that sales cycle, down the sales funnel into the next step. All right. This is it's actually perfect. It sure makes sense. It'll hold their attention and it'll entice them to know more, to know how or more. This is exactly what we're trying to do. We're not trying to notice the ADA principle is sequential. All right. We're not trying to jump from attention to action. We're driving people quickly through that entire panel. So let's look at the next step here would be to make them desire, right? Or make them make a decision. Why do people, let's back up here. The reason why people don't move faster down a sales cycle is trust. All right. This panel needs to say one thing: you can trust me. Okay? That's what this panel needs to say. Show of hands, how do we signal to people that they can trust us? How do we show people that they can trust us? Any ideas?
Testimonials is one.
Testimonials. Okay, that's a good one. Let me do this here.
Businesses that you've worked with before, somebody that has already got a trust factor to them. So for an example, let's say you've worked with Coca-Cola, whatever, and you have their logo to say worked with these companies. I don't know what they actually call that. If you can list companies that you worked for, what do they call that line? We normally have it at a whole banner just for those logos.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a word for it.
Like a trust bar?
Trust bar. Yes, that is what it's called. It's called the trust bar. Yeah.
Yes. So Digital Profits Creation is saying, telling them who we are and our experience. This is perfect. Okay. So here is actually so important. I want to say who we are only if it's relevant to the work. If it's not relevant to the work, we're using up precious screen time to tell people something that isn't valuable or isn't going to push that further along. All right. So here's what I want people to see here again. So here at this point, we're on the third screen full of content. Okay. So that this 7% You guys see here? Is this clear enough? The 7% that's still on your screen, they're interested. Okay, they're there to read more. They're there to see more. If they're here, you've successfully pushed them down the first two pages, okay, or two screenfuls, excuse me. So we want to tell them who we are, as long as it makes sense to the type of business that's relevant. So if I'm, if who I am has no bearing on the work or the product or whatever, then it doesn't matter. I can move along. Okay, I can use another different type of signal or trust signal to tell people that they can trust me. Okay, so our experience, so testimonials, previous work, who we are, our experience, our let's say our certifications, right? If you're looking for a lab or a third party, let's say what is it, like a ghost kitchen is what they call them, if you make food products, right? You want to know that the kitchen that you're hiring is I don't know, ISO certified, they have XYZ cleaning standards, consistency, training, something of that nature that tells people, okay, we are certified, you can trust us. So what the reason why that works is you're saying, okay, if you trust this third party provider, they trust me, so you should trust me too. All right, it's the same concept behind celebrity endorsements. Okay, or now we're seeing a lot of user generated content, right? User generated content, testimonials, right? People seeing other real people say, I had this issue and it worked for me. Okay, celebrity endorsements. This is why in the food industry, sampling is so important or so valuable. Like if you make ice cream, having people sample your ice cream before they buy is so important, because it says you can trust that you're gonna like this flavor, okay? Or it's gonna, you're gonna like whatever it is, so you can spend your money without worrying that it's just gonna sit in the freezer, for example. All right. So this is this section here that deals with trust. And obviously, I don't even want to pass by without mentioning social proof. So important, so important, so important. Social proof. That's what effectively all of this is. So that social proof tool that we have in Builderall that you can use, that pops up on the bottom of the page, signals to people immediately, this other person also used this product and they also liked it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down and duplicate. All right, now this is the desire / decision phase. All right, does this all make sense? All right, and then finally, this section here is so important too, because we're actually gonna drive action. All right, here, yep. Drive. If your user is scrolling here with intention, comma, ask for the sale. Oh my God, how many sales have we not made just because we haven't asked for them? Like silly gooses, silly geese. Ask for the sale, okay? Say, book an appointment, buy now, do the thing that we want you to do. And I see this so much in person, where people want to ask for the sale, but they don't, because I don't know, they're too shy or whatever it is. Fine, if you're shy, you don't get to do business. You know what I mean? So all of this is work lost and work wasted if we don't ask for the sale. So what does that mean? What does this mean? Show of hands. What does asking for the sale mean in our context here? Give your users the ability to do the thing you want them to do here and past. And in parentheses, I'm going to say not before. Okay? Here and after, I'm going to say not before. No. Okay? So, not before. What does that mean? It means if you have a booking calendar, add it now. If you are selling your product, add pricing here. If you want the customer to call a number, add it now. Okay? Etc. If you have an action for the customer to take, ask them here. Cool? Capiche? So then you say, okay, Pierre, this is all great, but this is a lot of text. Okay, this is a lot of text. Where do my pictures go? Okay, where do my pictures go? Let's follow this pattern all the way down. Okay, let's follow this F pattern all the way down and treat the pages like we want them to be read. So this gives us a good guideline. All right, we can use other guidelines from photography that help us center images and create good compositions. I'm going to explain the rule of thirds. I'm borrowing this from photography. In photography, we have something called the rule of thirds. Here, let me make this color a little brighter. Okay. So in photography, we have the rule of thirds. Oh, good Lord. What's going on here? We can take any composition and divide it into thirds. And it gives us boxes like this. All right. Now, in photography, when you want to highlight a subject, a good rule, again, this is not the only way, and this is not the only way to build a website, but it's a good way. It's a compelling way. Is to add whatever we want users to see. We can add it right here on one of these different points. So in photography, they say if you want to really showcase your composition, you want to have your subject matter on these lines. Okay, so if you have a horizon, having a horizon, let's say on this line, is really attractive. It's really soothing for the eye. Okay. Same thing, if I have like a bird, I want the bird's face to be on one of these points. It creates like a really easy, comfortable way for the eye to read. Is it the only way to create a composition? Jackie, is this the only way? No, thank you. So don't come at me saying, oh, Pierre, I built this page and, it doesn't look good, but I followed your rules. And Yeah, these are good rules of thumb for us to follow. They're definitely not the only way. Okay, so but create panels that have this visual grid and place your important elements on one of these 4 squares or 4 points of information, and you'll definitely see success. Okay, so having, let's say, your header be, or this title be on this upper third, right? So let's imagine a third here, a line up here, a line up here, having your big title. All right, and then maybe beneath it, let's add a booking. Let's add a booking calendar. Just so people can see what it looks like. Okay. No, don't show info. Okay, save. And I'm going to do not full width, not full height. Okay. Yeah. I wish we could like have different like notes, you know what I mean? Just to be able to leave like a notepad note on these pages, but I don't think that's
It would be very cool, because then it's like, especially when you are a web agency or something like that and somebody else has worked on it.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. You leave comments.
Yeah. But the problem is then somebody might forget to remove the word thing, and then they publish it, and then
right, exactly. So here we can, you know, think something like a carousel with all of your testimonials, right? Maybe a video, right? Video, I'm going to add this here actually, a video testimonial or video of yourself. How do you feel about background images? Great question. I love background images on one condition, that they don't take away from the content on the screen. Okay, so that's the most important thing. If the image takes away from the content on the screen, it is like busy, or it's not good enough quality, or whatever it is, don't use it. Okay, I know a lot of times people want to like shove all sorts of like things that they think are pretty in the background. Don't do it unless it really makes sense. Okay, I hope that answers the question. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down and show you guys how this all makes sense. All right, and we are at time, so I don't want to take any more than I need to, but here we go. Let's land on this page for a second. Let's give it a chance here to populate, and then we can look at it again. So, Jackie, we land on this page. We have a big header here. We have some supporting text. We have this call to action. And we have an image. It's attractive. It's comfortable, right? If you guys see here, there's a lot of space. If I were to add a really busy background image, it would take away from this comfort. Don't do it. But if I do add an image that, let's say, has a focal point somewhere around here or somewhere on that grid that we talked about, that would be great. My ADA principle step is attention. I gather enough attention, and here I have this beware of false floors. I scroll down. I say 70% of total users leave after this screen full. Be sure to capture user interest and signal to users that you can solve their problem, right? So how do you do that? You do that by using now you can statements. Show them the solution that they're looking for. Now you can build your business all in one place. Now you can save $1,000 a year in software subscriptions. Now you can save, you can ignore the headache or get rid of the headache of trying to make MailChimp work nice with WordPress. You know what I mean? You don't need any of that. So you give them a direct CTA. And again, here we did this false floor, no false floor here, right? As you scroll, every panel starts the panel underneath it. And here we want to say, now you can trust me, right? How do we do that? By any one of these different tools, okay? All at once? No, don't use them all at once, because here you have 7% of all of your users are still on your page. At this point, because we're at our third screen full, we're down to the people who care. So people here are actually looking, they're actually looking at your website. They're actually considering looking at you for their solution. So you want to give them relevant information, okay? Testimonials, previous work, a case study, portfolio, testimonial video, celebrity endorsement, social proof, whatever it is, offer that to people, okay? And now, what do you do this last stage? You ask for the sale, okay? And the last 2 minutes, I'm going to say, if users don't make the sale here, most of the time, it means that they're still not convinced. They still have an objection that they're looking to answer. And we can go through this next time, Jackie. We can continue this, and we can actually build on it.
I agree.
And maybe talk about using FAQ areas, why they're important, what you should add in there, and using different trust tools and different calls to action to actually generate that conversion. Okay, so next time, everyone, next week, we'll talk about things like exit pop-ups. We'll talk about social proof pop-ups. We'll talk about different live chat tools, for example, why they work and why they're valuable and when to use them. All right, but for today, I think I'm happy with where I am. What do you think, Jackie?
I absolutely love this. It is really so informative. And I'm sure that it's going to help a lot of people once we have pulled out this whole thing, once you've pulled it all out perfectly. And I really do like the principles of ADA on the side of it, because many times when you've spoken about it, there's always somebody that wants to know a little bit more or don't understand the concept. But now that you've added to these different panels, it just gives us that visual of understanding what it's about.
Yes, I totally agree. We have a question: digital profits creation. I don't think we've seen you here before. Welcome. If this is your first time, if you're using a new account or a different
that
account.
is Clarabelle.
That is Clarabelle. I figured from the picture, but I didn't want to assume. All right. Can we add something useful for them to get their email before they leave? That's going to be actually the point of discussion next time. Of what if we do all this work and they're just not ready? How do we nurture the customer back in? All right. So we're going to talk about how that looks like, what that looks like, and how we can actually implement some strategies to go from a no to a maybe, right? Because if someone's ready to leave the page at this point, then it's a no, right? We don't want to know. We might not be able to get a yes, but if we're able to get a maybe, then we can nurture that customer over time. So we're going to talk about how to implement that and why. All right. Cool. I'm excited for next time. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm actually excited for this template, and we'll see what we end up with next time. Once this all goes live, we'll all be able to start from here, right? So instead of you starting from a blank panel, you'll start with this panel, and you'll just, maybe using AI, maybe using your own brain, write the content, right, and really develop the story that we're telling, for it to be compelling and capturing attention. All right.
Great.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. I'm excited for next session, and we'll see you then.
Definitely. Bye, guys.